Hey there, Mike Dunn with Gamingtrend, and we're here with another episode of Tabletop Throwdown. And tonight we have a special guest, Sean Brown. Sean has been part of the industry for many, many years. He's been running Mr. B Games since 2005.
Yep.
Yep, and recently took over and relaunched the Mayfair brand. So Mayfair Games is back in business with Sean and his crew. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Kickstarter. Obviously, if you've been watching the site recently, we did post a video about a new Mayfair game that's on Kickstarter, Empire Builder Europe. Just for the purposes of disclosure, that was a paid promotional partnership with Mayfair Games and the Kickstarter campaign. But this is just us having some fun tonight. So so we're definitely gonna have you go ask you to go check that Kickstarter out because it's a great game. Sean is trying to bribe us once again. Let's try to keep it under the table there, Sean.
No, I can't.
That's fair. And tonight, co-hosting with me is James Van Tonningen, one of our editors at Gamingtrend. If you've been watching Tabletop Throwdown, he was with us when we had Kevin Wilson on for the Kinfire Council preview.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also, James and I play games every week, just about every weekend. So
basically,
yeah. So, but yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about Empire Builder Europe. We're gonna talk a little bit about Mayfair Games and Mr. B Games, but most of all, we're just gonna kind of talk about games, because Sean, I know you're a big gamer even before you started doing all this, right?
Yeah, but that Kevin Wilson, that's a gamer. I love Kevin stuff, and he knows I love his stuff. So we'll just take a moment, pour one out for Kevin Wilson. He's
Awesome. Yeah, we're actually hoping to get him back on the podcast sometime. We've been talking with Incredible Dream about a lot of the games that they've been working on with Kevin. And we'll actually have some really good coverage up about the Kinfire franchise and the lore behind it soon.
Nice.
But so yeah, you'll definitely want to stay tuned to Gamingtrend for that in the coming future. But let's talk about Empire Builder Europe, man. Let's obviously you came over and we played that time. Yeah, so how's the Kickstarter going? It's been going for about a week now?
Yeah, we're in the second week. Way better than we hoped for. We're just big fans of these games, even way before. I mean, before we ever even dreamed of working at Mayfair or potentially owning or working to own the company, we were just fans of those games. I've always played train games in general, and those were classics. So when we kind of put this whole thing together and bought Mayfair from Asmodee, that was like the first thing on the list. We just said, we got to go work something out and get the rights to do these. And we did, and we're very, very happy with everything that's gone down so far.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's been right for sure.
Fantastic. And it looks like you guys have unlocked a lot of stretch goals too.
Yeah, so we go with a pretty reasonable funding goal, which is just kind of bare bones for us, what we need to get it printed. And then we usually plot out like 4 or 5 pretty cool stretch goals that we think, like, if we got more money, let's throw the money back in the game and make cool stuff. But that's usually all we ever make. And then if a game takes off, we all kind of call each other in panic mode and go, oh crap, we got to figure out like 5 more goals. But that's the best part of this job, because I'd rather have that scenario than, I don't know, like trying to plan 10, 15, 20 things. Just to me seems like half the time I'm like, if we've already thought of it, we probably put it in the game already. You know what I mean? Right. So what we try to do with our stretch goals are make them things that we, you know, they're just nice improvements, dual air boards, you know, nicer wood components or metal trains or, you know, just cool stuff that we couldn't afford normally unless we had the extra cash. So,
Okay, so this is your first Kickstarter under the Mayfair brand, am I right?
so actually, no, we actually kickstarted it under Mr. B Games, which was surprising to me as well.
Oh,
Oh, so it's not a Mayfair game technically.
No, no. So the idea was that we knew we wanted to do this game, and we were going to work with Darwin's Toys, which are the which owns the estate to Darwin's Games, and we just thought, you know, we kind of want to kickstart it in a deluxe fashion and kind of do all these things that we've talked about or people over the years have said they would like to see. We just weren't sure if there was a market for that, right? Because coming from Mayfair, there's a certain, you know, they want to see it a certain way at a certain price point and stuff like that. So we thought, hey, let's let the sister company do the deluxe bells and whistles version, which is what I've been doing forever on Kickstarter. So it kind of made sense. We just said, well, I'll kind of take, you know, lead of the project, if you will. We'll run it over on Mr. B, make the deluxe game, get it out to everybody, and then Mayfair can kind of take over and publish like a retail version down the road. But we wanted to do something cool to get in the fans' hands right away.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's part of the benefit of having two companies, right?
Well, yeah, you know, and for us, we still love Mr. B Gamian was like my life for 20 years, right? And that was part of the deal of me coming to Mayfair. Is I just said, look, this is my life's work. I don't want to just turn it off or close it down or something. And we just said, well, we'll keep it going. We'll just use it for special occasions and special projects and things like that. And then as we started kind of working the two companies together, it became really clear that, you know, those games just can't quite, we couldn't do that game in the mass market the way we're trying to do it on Kickstarter right now. It would be too expensive, you know, but we can do that, you know, for the diehards that really want something cool. So that's kind of how we fell into it.
okay. So Mayfair is you're primarily targeting mass market with the Mayfair brand, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, slow and steady as we, you know, slowly reintroduce old classics. We're kind of bringing the catalogs back. A lot of the games they didn't exist or their graphic files were so old that we basically have been starting over from scratch with most of the things. So in that case, we just thought, well, it's time to give them all a facelift. Let's clean them up. Let's go through the rules. You know, let's really take a deep clean to them all as we kind of bring them out. Let's take our time, right? We kind of had that advantage. We didn't have to turn the catalog on tomorrow, you know, and that's kind of
Gotcha.
where we've been. And then we imported a few titles from Essen, you know, because that's what Mayfair used to do. Ultimately, that's how they got Catan back in the day. It's how they got all the games
Right.
out. So it was we kind of went to the past of the company and kind of said, what were some things they did in the past that worked? And that's what we've kind of based the new version of the company off of. So
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So it's like you guys really have an abiding respect for the Mayfair games that used to be, and you're basically trying to bring that old ethos back with this new incarnation.
yeah, I mean, the three of us, the three principals, we're all giant fans of the company. We've played their games for 25, 35 years, whatever it is. We've been lucky enough over our careers. I've known every major principal, every iteration of Mayfair. I was able to meet Darwin. I was able to meet his brother Peter. Just lucky, you know, that I ran into those guys at Genghis Khan of all places in, I don't know, 94 or 95
Oh,
maybe.
wild.
A train game. I think I played Nippon Rails or something with the Bromley brothers. And, you know, so like back then I'm just a knucklehead kid. Like I don't, you know, I'm just a gamer or whatever. I never thought those guys were cool, man. They worked at the coolest game place. And, you know, I just never thought I'd see that. And then when we kind of saw they were going to close it down and they didn't really have any plans for it, they were going to spin Catan off. We saw what was happening. We had, my partner had reached out a few times and they didn't reach back because it looked like they weren't interested. And then him and I kind of were talking about some different things, and then he kind of came to me one day and said, we got a, we got an offer from them. They came back and said, okay, if you guys really want to do it and do it justice, we'll consider selling it to you. So we actually called all the people that we could think of that we knew that worked there and said, is this stupid, or is this is this cool? I mean, it'd be super cool to see the company live on, see the Shield
Mm-hmm.
for another decade or two or whatever. And then for us, it's just, we thought it was cool. And my partner was involved with helping Rick Loomis's company when Flying Buffalo went down. Um, so, he'd kind of already been versed in doing that. And I just thought, man, that's super cool. I love that some of these games that are big parts of our past, that we're able to keep them around, keep them for the next generation, love them,
Absolutely.
they were a big deal.
So with Empire Builder Europe, I know it's kind of revisiting one of Mayfair's older titles, but what makes it unique in the modern market for a train game?
When we were thinking about it, a lot of I got to give respect to those guys at Restoration, right? Because they took a game that we all remember, the Dark Tower being the coolest thing on the block because you were 6 and it talked and lit up, and you know what I mean? Like, so you had this memory that it was a great game, but then when you actually played it, you're like, oh, this is trash. So
Yeah.
I love the idea that they said, let's redo this, but let's give you another game mode that's not trash. And so I preface that by saying, I do not think Empire Builder or Euro Rails is trash,
Right.
right? Games, but like, what I saw was over the years, the TGA, they just, the love they had for those games, right? They just kept playing them year after year, and they would tweak things on the cards, and they would do tournament rules and all these special things. And most of those guys, they have all the maps memorized, and they're just giant fans of these. And I started to realize, they probably have more knowledge than anybody. So why not go to them, and why not, you know what I mean, and get that kind of feedback? And then that's
Nice.
where we started getting these. Let's do the original rule book, but let's do an advanced or a tournament rule book with all those great things we've learned from thousands of plays and tournaments. And let's bring all that in. And Jeff and Trello over at Darwin's Toys have been basically the spearhead of this thing. They're the ones that have really brought the game back and into life. I'm just the one that is nostalgic and just thought, hey, while we're bringing it back, let's preserve the cool old school rules while we make your guys' new stuff. But then let's also, throw in some modern things that we as gamers have and see and use now that we didn't have 15 years ago, to make the experience a little faster, a little quicker, a little snappy, and kind of reintroduce a pickup and delivery game, which a lot of people now in modern games, they're like, oh, that's all the game does? Like, they want their point salad game. My game does pickup and delivery and action rule selection and worker placement all in one, because that's where we're at now, right? As gamers,
Right.
we handle multiple things like that. But the beauty of Empire Builder Europe, in my mind, is this whole, you have these cards and you think that you understand where you're going, but it's really not where you need to go. It's where you will be. And seeing that and drawing your network and having that vision and knowing what's going to come up later, or knowing what deliveries you should be going for, it is the game. And that's just such a cool thing that we get to reintroduce to and show people. So I'm super excited, and I'm happy with everything that's happened along the way. And the support's been awesome. The amount of people coming out to support it, that shows us that it's cool, that they want it, is just super satisfying and gratifying. And it's great. It's awesome.
Well, and honestly, I think it has the potential to reach a much wider audience now, right? Like it, based on that the play that we had when we were recording that video, Sean. Um, it occurred to me that Ticket to Ride is huge. It's a huge game. It's been huge for years. It is It's considered one of the best like so-called gateway games
Yeah,
in the market today,
or,
right?
and it's very
And
important to the hobby. Very important.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, the impression that I got was it you could definitely feel that DNA is in Ticket to Ride, in the modern Ticket to Ride, right? But it it feels a little it feels like Ticket to Ride, but a little crunchier, right? Like, if you're a big fan of Ticket to Ride and you've played, like, all these different versions of Ticket to Ride, and you're just like, okay, I need something a little bit more. Like, I feel like that would be a logical good step, especially if you wanted to continue with the trains theme, right? Um,
Well, and I always tell people, Catan used to always be, even when I worked at like Eagle Games, we would tell people if they came to our booth and say, I've never gamed, where should I start? We would literally point over to Larry and the Mayfair guys and go get Catan, go get it right now, like right now. And it's so
mhm.
funny, right? Because even then, people used to laugh at me. Why are you telling somebody to go buy a game from those guys? I'm like, hey,
Because they're going to come back later.
and 2024, I'll be working there, so I'm actually
It's the long game, Sean. It's the long game.
The longest game.
the longest
Yes.
long con of all time.
Oh, it's hilarious. No, I feel like there is a market full of Ticket to Ride players out there who would dig in to Empire Builder Europe, like it was like a new type of food they discovered, right? Like a new cuisine, right? It'd be, oh, this is good.
Got on Catan. I mean, I remember the first time I got Catan in '95, and it consumed us. That's all we played, just week in and week out. I mean, Grant, we had 30 board games total in the market available that you could purchase. So,
Right.
a lot of options. But back then, man, whew, that was
It was
game
it was
changer.
Catan or Monopoly, right?
Wasn't quite that bad, but like all of the good board games back then took all day,
Oh yeah, yeah,
right?
absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean,
you jump into Descent or Talisman.
yeah, Axis and Allies and Fortress America, Conquest of the Empire. Of course, those were, but that was the thing, right? Catan was the first game you could play in an hour that was
Hmm.
fun the whole time, and and then I think from there, like then people were easy to accept Agricola or like a Power Grid or whatever.
Right.
So I think these are all interconnected kind of games back from the past, and I think anybody that's just getting into this hobby or just learned a Ticket to Ride or a pandemic or whatever, I think it's a very easy logical step to move over to an Empire Builder, and also like especially even if you had Catan, right? And that's the only way you know it. Next time you go to a store and you see a Mayfair game, hey, that one will treat you right too. I mean, and we don't make Catan anymore. I wish we did because that'd be a totally different game and company. But Pete and those guys over there, Dunn Morgan and everybody there, they're fantastic. They're just destroying it over there. They're doing everything you could imagine with Catan and keeping that alive. And I'm sure that game will be around long when we're all gone, because it's
Hmm.
that important of a
Yep.
game. And I'm sure Ticket to Ride will be like that too. You
Yeah.
know,
For sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
the fact we're having a conversation about this kind of stuff and we're talking about a game that maybe I can help us make and we're in the same, that's just cool enough for me, and
Right. Right. Absolutely. No. And I know we discussed this a little bit, when you came and we filmed that video. But like, I've there's so many games
so many games.
from years ago that were so good, and there was a much smaller market back then, right? Like, people like Restoration, like what you're doing with the Mayfair back catalog, that sort of thing. Like, I feel like that's just a gold mine of potential, right? You could bring back some of these super awesome games, you know, tweak them a bit, to more modern sensibilities. You know, keep the option to play the original versions, like you're doing, and like they could find all new audiences, and there's. I mean, there's no company that exemplifies that better than I think than Restoration Games.
For sure.
You know what Justin and Rob and everybody over there is doing is just phenomenal. Yeah, like
everything you touch, right? You know,
yeah.
I remember somebody telling me they were doing Thunder Road, and I'm like, that terrible like thing that the only reason everybody bought it was for Star Wars miniatures. That thing?
I think it's my favorite game now, like my all-time favorite game at this point.
So good.
Yeah, James just gave it a 100 on Gamingtrend. And I'm like, yep, I'm good with that score. Yeah. I love it too. Oh,
you got
there's a little thumbs up. Wow, I didn't know it did that.
We played it in Econ maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago. I think Mark was out from the Dice Tower, and he was like, let's play this. It's so good. You're going to love it. I'm like, all right, what the hell, you know? Rob and those guys never let me down, right? Like, they always make something good. And 10 minutes, we're like standing around the table like idiots, screaming and yelling, ooh, through the fire, you know, like awesome. And I'm like, I don't remember this being that cool in 91. Was that thing when that came out in 92? Like, it was,
yeah,
right. It was not good.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing it. I never played the original. I think that was when that was right after I graduated from high school, so I had other things on my mind. And yeah, no, it's what's really cool is we actually just this last weekend we put to the table the new expansion, the Carnival of Chaos.
Okay.
James is working on that review for the site as well. And if you thought that the new Thunder Road was just bug nuts crazy, wait till you try this.
Right? It goes from Mad Max to Twisted Metal. It's you know, the Battle Cars version of Mario Kart.
Yeah.
You know, the battle mode.
You know, I've always said I'm a day late and a dollar short on names and games. I'm always just a hair behind everybody. So like, we had a game right before Thunder Road came out called Thunder Rolls. I'm like, close, right? We were so
nice,
super cool. Not as cool as blowing up, you know, but hey, super cool. You know, and then my very first game I ever published was called Terraforming. Not
oh my so close to gold.
And then Bonnet, that old card game from 2005. Let's throw Mars at the end. No, just kidding. He didn't do that. It was the Fractus guys made it. It's a fantastic game, and you know, 3 letters off, right? So what the heck?
Right. Wow.
And I got you rank, but you pulled that off like a champ. So anybody will have no clue that you just literally everywhere.
I actually didn't. I that's happened to me enough times in my life to where I just have like an instinctive, I'm not going to take the full sip yet because there are people talking and they could say something really funny. And yes, so, you know, the muscles kicked in and I was able to prevent an electrical fire, I guess.
Spidey sense.
Right.
Oh, gonna say something.
Yes, but my camera would have gone boop, and you'd have been like, Mike, what?
Show, wrap it up.
Yeah,
that's the cutscene.
Now, you mentioned something about bringing games over from Europe with the new Mayfair. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about that. I know we have a review of one of those games up on the site.
You do. You guys were the first ones to do Cafe.
Cafe, that's right. Yes. Actually, and I remember Dan really liked it quite a bit.
Yeah. Live at Origins, and Dice Tower was doing it on the summer preview, and it was like weird because I got notifications that it's like between your live stream and when they went, those both aired, I don't know, within 30 minutes of each other. I was like, that's
Oh wow.
it was unplanned. I no idea. We just happened to send the stuff out, and that's how it went. But that was super cool. So that was Origins was our first public-facing show under the new ownership of Mayfair. That was kind of the hey, we're back, and Cafe was the first hey, we're back game. So
Nice. So it occurs to me that you just came back from Essen Spiel. Am I correct?
yeah, that was one of the best 4 days in gaming I've been to.
That's pretty cool.
Can't
so I can't imagine you can talk too much about anything yet, but well, I don't know. You might be able to. Did you guys sign any good stuff? Are you guys going to bring some stuff over as a result of Essen Spiel?
we did, and yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah. Um, most of them are still in the works, finishing up and wrapping up. But it was super cool because we had been last year, and but last year nobody knew we were back except for us,
Right?
And so we were out and back, and it was like the worst kept secret because obviously then people knew we were back on the industry level much quicker than on the consumer level. But for us to be back a year later, the company we did Cafe with, we did their entire line. So we have slowly been kind of bringing their games back. And we did, after Cafe, we did Lotta, which is the second in the series. And then we did a game called Celta that we really like. But one of the other games we saw at Essen that year that was just released this Essen was called Asian Tigers. And that one was great because nobody even knew we were doing it. So it was released at Essen. It was a smashing success at Essen and sold out immediately. And then everybody's going, God, when can we get this in the States? And everybody's like, it'll be for sale Monday in the States. It's already at Mayfair. And it's ready to go. And that's how we brought that one on everybody, which was super cool because we played it, fell in love with the game. We liked the designers' other games. And we just really love the guys at Pythagoras. They're fantastic. We love Cafe and Lotta to death. We love Celta. And we got to see their new one. It's going to be called Zate, I believe. They may change that, but we got to see that. And that'll be number 3 in the series because Cafe is number 1 and Lotta's number 2. So it was just great from that standpoint to see, the idea and the vision we had for the company and kind of bringing over some imports and doing some new things and doing some retro things at Essen this year was kind of the first time we got to see all 3 of those things happen. So it was very encouraging.
Super cool.
So we definitely
I got a
lot of things.
I got to wonder, in meeting with some of those European companies, like that the Mayfair brand probably, I'm curious as to how that was part of the equation. Like, were you working with people? Did you meet with anybody that used to work with the previous incarnation of Mayfair? Let's see if I can get some words out of my mouth. Good grief.
Interesting enough, I've been going to Essen for almost 20. I think this was my 20th spiel. It was my 19th or 20th. I'll have to go back and look.
Wow.
But I've been fortunate enough to, like, just being old and being around forever and refusing to die because I'm a dinosaur, long enough that unfortunately these people have met me before, which I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to meet me, but they guys have. I've been lucky enough that when I do go, I can get an appointment. Like just give them a quick email and go, hey, can I stop by or whatever. And it was really encouraging because some of them I worked with in the past, and some of them were companies that were just a little too big to work for me. Like when I was at Mr. B, we were too small to work with them. They were too big.
Right.
And so when they saw me over there, and I brought my business partners with me, and so they got to meet all of us, and they realized, oh, it's not just Sean as a one-man show trying to do all this all by himself anymore. He's got a team of really talented people, and these guys collectively are going to do it. So you know what I mean? It changed the narrative. So it definitely helped open doors. And then of course the comfort, just knowing the brand and knowing, oh wow, okay, if Mayfair Games imports that and puts it out, it maybe has a little bit better chance than, if we put it out under Mr. B Games, just a little bit better known brand or product, So
Right.
we like it, and it's been great because at some places, uh, one meeting we had, they'd never heard of Mayfair, but they're like, "Oh, Mr. B Games," and so of course I'm
Oh
laughing.
wow,
Like, how
that's cool.
in the world would that ever happen? It's like somebody's heard of my company, but they've not heard of Mayfair Games. Okay, I mean, I guess there's one guy, right, that never played Catan, maybe, but
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
so like just going over there and seeing a lot of friends, a lot of old friends, people that I knew from other companies when I worked at other companies, being able to kind of come back and say, hey, and this time it's different, right? Like this time, the three of us we're older, wiser, or dumber. I don't know, but it's that whole like this time we're not doing it like, oh, let's go get rich or oh, let's go get famous or whatever. We're just doing it because we're like, hey, let's go make these awesome games cooler again. So maybe 25 years from now they'll still be around because they deserve to be. And that for me
Nice.
felt more important. And I'm like, if something cool happens while we own Mayfair along the way, that'd be great. But if it doesn't, we're gonna have a lot of fun making a lot of cool stuff. And anybody that buys our stuff is gonna really enjoy it because they're great games. They're games that I learned how to game on in a lot of these cases, and we're just cleaning them up, dusting them off. I mean, gosh, we did Ace of Aces, and everybody's like, "What in the world could you do to that game?" And we're like, "We did it in color." Like, like I've literally had people go, "Well, that then you didn't do anything. You did nothing to the game." We're like, "No, you don't understand. That game had a lot of color pictures. It took a long time to do, and it looks
Right.
so much cooler in color. And it's so much. But we didn't change the game at all because the game's fine. It just was a bunch of comic book black and white drawings in a flip book. So we just made the
Right.
book bigger because all of our eyes suck now and we can't read the little 12-point font anymore. So we just bumped up the font so anybody could read it, and we made the book bigger so you could hold it and see all the cool stuff. And um, we put that out, and everybody went crazy for it. And we were just like, awesome, we'll keep making them. And then people are like, will you make the next one and colorize it? We're like, sure, we're gonna get started now. And everybody's like, it's like a year before you're even gonna try to Kickstarter. We're like, it's gonna take like 9 months to get all these pictures drawn, and
Right.
so we actually found a very cool historic modeler, and he actually had very, prop accurate planes for the two planes that were in Powerhouse.
Oh,
And
nice.
so we actually had him do it, and then he stop motioned all of his model planes basically, and then kind of
Oh,
threw the
wild.
digital filter on them to make them look, sketch or whatever. But like it was slick, like so they look real.
So
And
it's like they're photographs of models.
yes, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Like the overhead cameras
Super
on
cool.
the sides and all that, and he kind of brought them in and scanned them, and it was really cool. And he spent a lot of time to fix it because really the whole game is only played on a very small hex grid because there's only so many maneuvers you can make.
Right.
Ed, one of my partners, had figured that out, talking with Alex Leonardi and those guys over, that still designed it at Nova. They're still alive and kicking, and we just licensed it from Nova because we're like, hey, Nova, we've got this Mayfair thing, and you guys used to do this cool book over at Flying Buffalo, and we're doing Nuclear War from Flying Buffalo. Can we do that one with you too? And they were like, heck yeah. So that's how we kind of stumbled into that one too. And these were just because they were games we loved. So color, that was the big revelation. Just colorize it and let's put it back out. And that was people like that one. So sure, I mean it was a lot of work, but game wise, development wise, it's basically the same game, and it's just as fun, just a little bit bigger font.
Nice. That's fantastic. Yeah, I got to check that out. Next time I see you, I definitely want to check that out. That sounds super cool.
I can't wait for advance copies. We've been waiting, but probably be January. I think we did. We'll get a couple of cases in early, and we'd never done this before, but a couple of people said, "Hey, since it's a flying game, can you air in like a few cases and get them out early to people?" So we just, all right, we'll air in 12, and we put 12 up, and they sold out in like 10 seconds. So then,
wow,
did you do 12 more? So we did 12 more, and they sold out in like 3 minutes, and it was just like every 10 minutes we just kept putting. And then at some point we got to like 50 or 60, and I said, "That's it. The plane can't carry any more cases."
Nice.
We thought we would be over like in Europe or looking at factory tours or something, and we literally thought like we would just check them as luggage and bring them back. And then at some point we're like, "Nope, we're going to mail those because we can't take 6 cases of AC."
Yeah, it's too many. That's hilarious.
Well,
man. I can't wait until I can't wait till I can check that out. That's super cool.
Oh, and my favorite thing that's happened all week is there was an awesome Facebook post that somebody tagged me in, I believe accidentally, saying, "Hey, Mr. B makes another shitty game trying to screw over your 90s childhood."
What? Oh my god!
And I was like,
wow.
Yes.
You're like, that's going up on the website.
I was like, oh, I could feel the anger. Like I was just like, right? I'm just like, this is so great. I'm like, you have no idea. Like,
mission accomplished.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
I'm a 90s guy. I love the 90s. I loved everything we did in the 90s. I love the games we did. And you know what? Like, whatever, man. I'm an old guy now, and this is effectively pseudo retirement, right? Let's go make some cool,
right.
Have a lot of fun, and if they're not for you, I think I told Mike there were 6,400 and change games, new games released at Essen this year.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, hey, if we made one and you didn't like it, that's cool. I hope you find one you do like, but like, it always weirds me out that somebody's going to take the time to rage post and say I screwed their childhood. Like, I'm like, okay, man, like, sweet, like, we're just trying to make some cool stuff, but hey, what are you going to do with that? But I'm like, there are days you love that, you just
right.
Drink it up.
Yeah. No, when you get that, that's, I think I described this to one of our writers recently, because they were complaining about they were complaining about people complaining about what they wrote.
Sure.
And I was just like, well, no, that means you've made it, right? You know that, right? You've made it. Like, that means your work is going out wide enough, far enough to where it has pierced the shield around you, where everybody is like, "Oh yes, dear, that's lovely," and then someone is, and it's out in the hands of people who actually have no fear about telling you their opinion on the matter. So, yeah.
It's awesome. I'm just like, man, the days you get reminded that this is what you get to do for work, you're like, this is all right, but and it's so funny because as we just kept going and we started making more games and we started bringing things, I had a bunch of stuff signed in the Mr. B queue, and we were kind of like, oh, maybe we could ship this over here or do this, and it's so funny because this year, well, actually just literally just a few days ago, we finally started shipping our dungeon crawl called Dragon's Down. And I made it with a local guy here, Scott Demers, and super great guy, super fun game. And everybody immediately, oh, it's a remake. It's a remake of Magic Realm, right? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's Scott's all-time favorite game. It was heavily inspired for him. It was kind of his vision, what he would want from a cool dungeon crawl. And that's awesome. But then I'm like, oh boy, we really do have a lot of nostalgia going on, right? Like, but that was totally accidental, right? It was just one of those.
Right.
Scott and I have been working on a plan to make Dragons Down for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I mean, we worked on Hellenica for like 6. We just make those games because Scott's super talented and he makes these cool things. And then I look at him and tell him, here, let's put a boat in there and let's make a catapult and let's do all these cool things out of plastic. And then he laughs at me and goes, you could never afford to do that. And I go, well, let's figure it out because it would look cool. And then we just made cool games. So with the dungeon crawl, he just told me, look, I want to make this thing. That's it. I just want to make this dang thing. And I was like, yeah, all right. You know, I played Magic Realm. My brother used to make me play it way back in the day. And what I remember from Magic Realm is that my brother we'd go have lunch, and then my brother would say, okay, go ride your bike. I'm going to go set up Magic Realm. And then, like, you know, my mom would yell, hey, it's dinner time. And I'd come inside and ride my bike all day. We'd eat dinner. And then my brother would be like, okay, I'm almost ready to run you through the first scenario of Magic Realm. And I'd be like, all right. And it was fun. It was a fun dungeon crawl. And I'm sure my brother had a ton of fun spending 4 or 5 hours sorting trays and figuring out charts. And, you know, because he would basically practice so that he could run it seamlessly for me for, you know, the 2 adventures I went on. And then I'd be like, that's awesome. I want to go this way. And he'd be like, can't go that way. And I later learned it's because he hadn't read that terrain pack yet. So he didn't know how to go that far. But, you know, that's pretty cool. And so when Scott's showing me that, I'm having flashbacks and memories of playing with my brother and just good time days. And I'm going, this is sweet, man. We got to do this, you know? And it's crazy. The phenomenon we've experienced on this one is we put it out. We people backed it. We had a pledge manager for it. We kept the TTS going. Like, we had a digital TTS during the campaign. We kept it open after. There's turned out to be this huge community of people that are playing it online every day still. And the games finally started shipping. And we just started getting bombarded on our website with people going, why isn't this available for sale in stores? And we said, well, because we just shipped it to our backers, right? And people were, well, when's it going to be on your site? And I'm like, after every backer gets it. They bought it first. They paid for it a year ago.
Right.
They get it first. And it's so crazy to me that we live in that world where people are like, well, but I didn't bag it, but I want it tomorrow. And I'm like, that's awesome. But these guys were basically waiting in line like 1983 for Return of the Jedi for 4 days.
Right.
So they can get it going and they get to play it first and have fun, you know, because I'm that old that we can't reserve tickets to movie theaters like on our phones. I had to go stand in line with my dang cousin, right? And it was a track, but it was memorable, and you remembered that, and it was super cool when you got to get in there. And so that's our philosophy. Hey, you backed our thing. We want to make sure you get it, and not that you get it and an hour later it's for sale, that you get it and you have it for a couple of weeks so that you can play it first and you can go to BGG and talk about it, or you can call your buddies on a podcast and talk about how cool it was, or we can get them to a reviewer, right, to share it.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? Like, you have a lot of people with Kickstarter who back Kickstarters nowadays that are complaining about companies like seeing retail copies before they get their Kickstarter copy. And I don't necessarily think anyone's like trying to do that in that order. Well, the intent is to get it to the Kickstarter backers first, but shipping right now, shipping across the world is still not what it was before COVID, right? It's still just it's still crazy as hell. So like
4 different projects leave at 4 different times on 4 different boats. Sounds like I'm ready to tell a riddle or a story, but the last one to leave literally arrived first. The first one to leave has not arrived. And it's like months. And you're just like, what? There's no traffic, right? There's nobody with rocket launchers this month shooting at containers. That did happen right away at the beginning of the year. That's a true story. Look it up. We had a container rerouted around the Cape Horn of Africa because in Yemen they were shooting rocket launchers at ocean containers off the side of ocean ships. That happened. That is astounding to me, right? I mean,
Right.
like the fact that we have to get bonded and licensed to move freight. We're moving stuff, and it's the first time in my life I was nervous because I'm just like, I know I've got a bond, but like, what's the underwriting on a rocket? I don't actually know. There's some loophole in there, and my insurance company's being like, "Oh, we don't cover sidearms or rockets."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We
Like,
don't cover terrorist attacks. Sorry.
there's no way in a million years I would have been able to know or predict any of that with ocean freight.
Right.
What's crazy is at my company on the Mr. B side, I mean, for years we had people, you guys are always expensive on shipping. But what's crazy is we've never raised our rates. And now everybody else has rates the same or higher than us, which is crazy to me. And I'm like, crap, we're right on the cusp where if the prices keep going the way they do, you might have to come up a little bit. And I was always hesitant. I don't want to do it. I didn't want to come up. I always try to give everybody
Right.
even if we have to subsidize it, and we subsidize all of our stuff. I just didn't want to do it. And that's where we're at in this day and age now. It's just it's so expensive to move this stuff and make it. And that's the message I always like to put out to people that Kickstarter or creators that Kickstarter is just, hey, just remember we're regular guys just like you guys. We're just as excited about this stuff. And sometimes some really weird crap happens on the ocean, and it's not our fault. We're trying our best, but we have a lot of fun doing it. I don't like reading about rocket launchers shooting at your containers, but like as gamers, I think we're a little bit like a little more open to that weirdness. Like, we can equate it to Thunder Road and just go, yeah, it's probably like
right.
anchor over a ramp. It'll probably get here, right? It'll probably get here. So, what a crazy, the ocean freight part is terrible. We just tell every campaign we do, we just say, we'll have it in about a year. Most of the time we're early because it usually doesn't take a year, but the way the ocean is now, I'd rather say it's going to take a year and then it comes a couple months early because almost always it's late now. So when it's late, it's still on time,
There you go.
and that's all we can do. And
it's all about managing expectations.
Absolutely. And, and on that front, for anybody that was interested in Dragons Down, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we didn't make a ton of. I'm sorry we don't have them available right away. We are going to do another campaign in January for it, and we'll remake it to order if people want it, because we had no idea it was going to be as popular as it's been. And we get that question all the time. Why didn't you guys make more? Well, we made what we thought was enough. We didn't know, we didn't think, is anybody going to want this crazy remake of this old game that, is not Magic Realm? Like, because, it's possible somebody will remake Magic Realm someday. And we wanted people to know this isn't that. This is a dungeon crawl. But it's heavily versed and based in things that you'll remember from your memories of Magic Realm.
It's like a spiritual successor.
But like,
yeah,
Scott's most famous part about it is it's like setup takes about 4 minutes, right? For a module, you got these little module boards, and you just pop poker chips on them and little site tokens, and you just plug them out, and then you pick whichever trains you want. You can just play in the forest, or you can just play in the mountains or the swamps, or you could put them all together. So each one just takes 4 or 5 minutes to yank out of the box, plop out, and you're off and ready to go adventuring. So that's not really been seen. Like, that's kind of, I saw the Elder Scrolls game did something like that, where you could open up the box and the rule book was like, hey, dive right in and we'll teach you as you go. This one doesn't quite have that tutorial, but it's to dive in and get going. If somebody bought this game, read the rules ahead of time, you could almost be a dungeon master and bring it to game night and teach all new people at the table in 5-10 minutes and be up to the races. So
super cool.
We're digging it, and so also being a kid from the 80s that played a little bit of role playing in D&D before I caught the board game bug. I still like to role play, but I'm told that I role play real old and basic, real simple. And so for me, this is great because it's got a lot of that elements, and then it does have some more elements you can put on top. But I can play a classic barbarian and go, I understand what chainmail and a hammer does, and I don't need to worry about spells or magic or sneaking or haggling. I can just dive in and bash people. I'm in for a good hack and slash.
Hit with stick.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I feel like a lot of these dungeon crawler games, like the goal is to kind of take that original D&D experience from back in the day and
Boil it
basically,
down.
yeah, boil it down and focus it and give you something on the table so that it's not just in the theater of the mind.
Sure.
Kind of bringing it back to the, oh man, my camera did it again. There we go. Kind of bringing it back to the, let me start. Kind of bringing it back to the miniatures, kind of like early, prototype typical era for D&D with
Sure.
like chainmail and what it sprung forth from.
Yeah.
Thank God we don't have to use big sandbox tables anymore, right?
Back in our day, we had to carry the sandbox table to set it up,
Right.
build our own terrain, and no,
And then they won't even let you use your diecast Millennium Falcon,
yeah, right. Is we had at one point we also, with having Flying Buffalo kind of under our wing, we had Tunnels and Trolls, and we actually all kind of did this because we knew we weren't the right guys for that, right? We knew we're role players. We understand role, but there are really passionate guys that role play, and that wasn't us. So we thought there's bound to be, and the guys at Rebellion reached out and they were like, we got to have that. And we were like, those guys are the guys.
Yeah.
So even,
it's a good sign when they say, we got to have this, right?
Exactly. It was just like, that was awesome. The fact that we could, knowing Rick Loomis for several years. I mean, the guy was awesome. President of Gamma more times than I can remember. Always pinch hitter and fill in anytime. He would help anybody in this industry. First day you were at a show, if you've been to a show 10 years, that guy would always stop and have a smile and talk to you and help you. And to see his company, like his 2 or 3 best things now that he's passed, have now landed with 2 or 3 places that will be able to do them all justice, for me is just super cool to see, right? Because it's like he'd dig that Tunnels and Trolls went to some guys that loved RPGs as much as he did, and that Nuclear War came to some guys like us that are can remember being a bunch of knuckleheads in college drinking very, very cheap alcohol while nuking each other to oblivion. That's where these things need to go, right?
Right.
I hope someday, 40 years from now, whoever takes over at Catan Studios is just the biggest Civ type playing guy on the world. You know what I mean? Like I hope that's the guy that can carry that torch too.
Right.
Well, it's
so
go
for it.
I was just going to say that the board game industry really is a industry based around people with a lot of heart and a lot of love for what they build and what they want to build, and it always has been. Like a lot of what you're picking up at Mayfair are people's life projects or projects for years of their life, building charts and whatnot, just to try and make something before computers, before Excel, that works and functions. And like that's something that's really cool to see because board gaming has always been about passion projects. I mean, no one goes into board gaming to make a ton of money.
There's so many better options, but man, it's and you're right with technology and stuff. Like probably the craziest thing I've seen is our graphic artist and my partner Ed were working on the original Empire Builder map file that we had somewhere. And we're checking it out, and I think I was talking to Larry or one of them. I don't remember who told us, but they were literally doing it on a whiteboard with a Sharpie and measuring it, the original dots. And, the width of the pen just being a hair off each time they dotted it. By the time they got to the very end, they were like quarter inch off. So some of those maps aren't even symmetrical. So, we go in and go into Illustrator and just go, hey, pop a grid, and it's like, and it's all over, and you're like, oh no, that's not going to work, because right, I can't move these rivers, and I can't, but now all of a sudden the dots don't line up, and you start to realize that, those guys on the thing were dotting on a real map, and when they got close to the river, they just cheated a little bit. Computer doesn't cheat, you guys. So we're
right.
So we can't scan anything in, because people are like, why don't you just scan it? It doesn't work. Right? Like, so these are the things we discovered, and they had their own printing press. The old Mayfair had their own printing stuff, and they did all their own assembly up in Skokie. We don't have any of that. We didn't buy any of that. Right? We bought the titles and the games and the whatever, like, to keep. We bought the stuff that was going to just go away, was going to get abandoned, because we thought it could be revived and brought back. But you find weird stuff like that, like those little dots, and you just go, wow, or black and white airplanes that need color. And these are the problems I thought I would never like. We live in a digital world. What? We can't solve this in like a weekend? Like, what?
Right.
Why can't we? And we're realizing, because we're using analog and then digital and then back to. So we just recreated it all over from scratch. But now that we have it, we're like, great. Now all the new maps will be super easy to assemble. So hope everybody keeps coming back, and we can keep making a map every year, because they're cool. We'll do them all if everybody wants to do them all, and we'll do 2 or 3. And if we get 2 or 3 in and everybody's like, that one sucks, and we're getting only 100 people back, and then we just won't do it anymore. But right now, we got a lot of people who want them, so we'll keep making them. Full
steam ahead.
That's right. We have the rights to that, and we didn't even know it. That was pretty
fun. I wasn't even like that was a bad joke I made. Like, I didn't even realize there was a game named Full Steam Ahead. That's
Steam.
That's hilarious.
Steam.
Yeah.
We Martin Wallace while I was at Essen, and we were talking about that, and he was like, you should bring back Steam. And I was like, that'd be awesome. And then him and I had a chuckle, because we were like, oh yeah, we worked together on Aegis Steam, and now we would be working together on Steam. Wild how the world works, right? So
that's awesome. Well, we just have a few more minutes. I'm going to ask probably the most wide-ranging question that I probably could at this moment. But it sounds like you have been deeply involved with this industry for a long time. I mean, certainly longer than me, and we're probably close to the same age. I just had a big gap where I didn't. It's like I decided to play video games for a while.
I was doing
but how do you feel about the state of the industry today?
Oh, I think it's great. I mean, I think crowdfunding is fantastic, because anybody who really wants to make something, and wants to put in the time and the effort, has a vehicle. Back when I started, there wasn't things like that, and you had to just believe in it and go print it. And if it didn't sell, you had to figure out how to keep 800 of them in your garage for 17 years. I might know about that one. I don't know. I might still have some at my mom's house and my dad's house and in my garage, because I ran out of space. Because you think it's the greatest game in the world, and you go print it and you sell a few hundred. So I wish we could have seen that. I wish I could have had somebody tell us this game really sucks and you shouldn't make it.
Right.
And then I could just move on to the next project. So it's super cool. And, we actually do listen to people when they're backing or telling us this is not good or whatever, it does affect us. So I love that. I love that the industry has that. I love that the industry also has bigger companies and really cool IP and people out there like Davro and those guys at Restoration that can take cool things now that, and remake them and put them out and the way they remembered them. And I love that everybody still is out there, will help you. And if you're at Gen Con on a Sunday night packing up and your screwdriver's lost, there's always a guy 1 or 2 booths away that'll loan you one. I love that the most about everybody in the industry. And it doesn't matter what companies get bigger or smaller or what grows or whatever. Everybody's still just nice, cool, great people. And then like also when things don't go, it's like everybody in this industry really rallies behind the right causes and the right things. And it's just very inclusive kind of place for fun, creative people, and nobody's ever judged me for looking funny or whatever. If I was at a game table, they just come on in, come play, right? It didn't matter how old I was, how young I was. I was always, you're just always welcome, right? And that's still true to this day. And that's what I think I dig the most.
Nice. Well, Sean, thanks for coming on to the show with us today. I hope you come back on the show because I feel like we could probably talk for another like 2 or 3 hours.
We always have fun, right? I love that you asked me to come on because we were like hanging out or having breakfast or something. We were chatting. We're like, God, that would have been great if you record that. That would have been fun to talk about.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, even as we're wrapping up, I'm like, oh yeah, we got to go. And I'm like, oh, there's probably 12 stories you and I have already talked about that I forgot and you forgot that would be fun to talk about. So,
right,
anytime, that'd be cool.
And I think what we really need to do is we really need to get together and play a game. Because we came close, not just a demo. Yeah. We came close when you came over, and yeah, I'm hoping we get a chance to do that soon.
Next time I'll play the advanced rules because you're an advanced gamer.
There you go. Well, definitely check out the Kickstarter for Empire Builder Europe. It's still on right now. How much longer does it have, Sean?
Like 18, 19 days, something like that. So about a little under. Okay.
So you still got some time. We'll put the link in the description whether you get this at YouTube or as an audio podcast. We'll make sure that we have the link for you. And definitely check out the other Mayfair games that they're bringing over from Europe. And check out Mr. B Games. I know you have quite a few titles up there, and you said you're launching a Kickstarter for a second edition or a new print run of the Dungeon Crawler in January.
Yep, that'll be in January, when we were going to do Lords of Baseball's expansion here this month for October for the playoffs, but just couldn't quite work the wrinkles out. But Lords of Baseball is up on the website now, so if you're into baseball, that thing is super, super fun. And if you're into dungeon crawls, January.
Nice. So yeah, we'll definitely be keeping tabs on what you're doing, Sean. It sounds like you're doing a lot of really exciting, really awesome things. So yeah, I'm definitely being more of an old school gamer than pretty much everybody on the team here at Gamingtrend. I definitely keep an eye out for a lot of these old games that make a resurgence, especially since there's like this gap of like 10, 15, 20 years where I wasn't playing games as much as I was when I was younger. So I missed out on a lot of cool stuff. Thankfully, what you guys are doing can help me fill in some of those gaps. And then also excited to see like how these old games translate into modern audiences. We talk about timeless games. The game that really got me into the hobby was Diplomacy, like back in the day. And so it's always exciting to me to see that game is still being played, that's they're still bringing it to the market and that sort of thing. I know Renegade's doing some interesting things with a lot of those classics as well. So yeah, always try to keep an eye out for stuff like that. But
and I really hope they do like a 1 hour diplomacy. You know what I mean? Like some kind of a thing.
That would be wild.
A fast diplomacy, yeah.
Just something that's escalated where you just roll for conflict and move a bunch of stuff around and get into the negotiation phase quicker. And, like just like kind of like whatever coup would be, or like all those types of games like that they've distilled that apart. Like just put that back into something diplomacy and give us the map and give us the classic rules, but give us a real. That'd be sweet, man. I'd be all over that.
Well, and I know they've been working really closely with the diplomacy community, but that's mostly like a bunch of diehards that've been playing it for decades, right? So, yeah, that would be super cool. That would be really cool. Now, I that's a super healthy, like interesting approach that you guys are taking with these old titles, and definitely want to see more of that. Anyway. Sean,
that one's for free. So you can have that. Go ahead, make that over there. When that happens, we'll cut this video. We'll have the little clip. Sean and Mike called this in 2023. So in 2026, when Diplomacy in 1 hour comes out,
right. Or what if they come out with like Diplomacy Duel? Like the 2-player versions are all the rage these days, right? That would be weird. I can't even imagine what that game would be. Well, Sean, I definitely hope you come back on the podcast sometime. It was a blast chatting with you. The hour just zipped right on by, and I hope our viewers and listeners agree too. I think it was a great conversation.
Hey, thanks for having me anytime. I had a blast. Have a good one, guys.
Awesome. Take it easy,
You
y'all.
too. Take care.